I'm going to talk about economic nationalism. So, what is economic nationalism? Well, it's basically creating foreign economic policies that benefit your nation, right? That's what's implied by economic nationalism. So, what does this look like? Well, it looks like trade wars, right? Tariffs. Okay, we tax imports in order to encourage people to buy the goods and services locally, right? Rather than the imported goods and services. But here's the thing, okay? The minute you start accepting goods from another country, like China, for example, say you replace 50% of your production of a good or service and you replace it with imports from China, your economy is going to adjust to those imports, and the supply provided by your economy within your border is it's going to adjust. So you've just lost 50% of your domestic production of that good or service, and yet the demand stays the same. So what we're really seeing here is with trade, with world trade, globalized trade, is that you are you're becoming dependent on another nation for goods and services. Okay, this is the nature of globalization, and if you don't realize this and you tax these other nations, you tax their imports, and you create these sanctions and trade wars, eventually those trade wars grow into real wars. Okay, that's just how it works. You create tension, economic tension between the nations, and it's going to grow into a real war. And the thing is like, if you look at the Ukraine war, you can see how you can see this starting to happen, right? You have, even with nations that aren't involved in the Ukraine war, so you have the Ukraine war disrupting supply chains, and then the prices inflate in countries around the world, countries that aren't even necessarily involved in the Ukraine war. And this creates social tension within those nations. And then that social tension creates fear, right? And then people look to their government to, in effect, tax the other nations to create these tariffs and these trade wars in order to benefit themselves. Okay, economic nationalism. This is a vicious cycle, and if we continue down this path, again, these trade wars turn into real wars, and we don't want this. Okay, it doesn't benefit anybody. And if you try to be the imperialistic regime like that is the United States, and you try to control people with the military, control these nations, and control the world's economy, it's going to backfire. And that's what happened to Rome. That's what happened to the Roman Empire. They tried to control everyone militarily, and they overexpanded, and they destroyed themselves from within. And that's why the social tension in the United States is growing so much. We are defending our economic nationalist policies with the U.S. military, and that U.S. military is draining resources away from the people in the United States, and is creating social tension, social division, which eventually builds into a civil war, right? It's really simple. We have to get out of this vicious cycle. Okay, the technology that we have has enabled globalized trade on a scale that we have never seen before. And this is the main takeaway that I want you to get from this video. It's that the new technology has changed the formula of the economy. Okay, it has made us all dependent on each other, because we're now shipping goods and services across the world. Again, we become dependent on each other. If you ignore this dependence and try to remain independent and try to take advantage of these other nations, it's going to cause tension that builds into war. It's a really simple process if you think about it logically. We can't keep pushing these economic nationalist policies. It will not work. Okay, if you look at China, what is China doing? They're building roads, right? They have this Belt Road Initiative, building roads throughout the East. They're building economic ties with these other nations. The BRICS nations have just expanded, or they're going to expand beginning of 2024, I think, right? The United States looks at this as a threat. But the truth is if the BRICS were to just join G7 and we were to begin working together, everyone would benefit. Okay, and that's the thing. If you ask economists, okay, the study of economics is not, it's not a solid science, right? It's kind of evolving, and it's evolving because the technology is evolving, and we're learning what the implications of that technology has on the economy. But there's one thing that economists agree on, and it's that free trade is the best option for everyone. And yet we are still electing the politicians who are pushing this military-industrial complex in an attempt to control the entire world's economy. The United States is, again, China's building roads in the east. The United States is building military bases in the east, which is strange, right? We got plenty over here in the west, right? We're building military bases in the east because we're trying to control everybody. We would have a utopia in 50 years if G7 and BRICS joined together today, and they ended the trade sanctions and the tariffs on each other, and began to trade freely. And then these rich nations like China, the UK, and other European countries in the United States, if they work together to bring up these other nations in Africa, these poor nations in South America and whatnot, we could have a utopia in 50 years. It's really simple. We just have to realize that the world economy has changed with the onset of our new technology, with the adoption of our new technology. And if you remain stuck in the old nationalistic mindset, you're gonna be left behind, and you're going to drag everyone down with you. And I will fight you in order to stop you from dragging us down. It's not good for the world. We just have to embrace the fact that we are becoming a collectivized global economy. That's it. And it's like, if you think about the trade between states, between like Ohio and Pennsylvania, think about the trade between those two states. You just have to expand that concept to the trade between two nations. That's it. It's like the only way forward with our technology is in effect, in the long term, globalism. I know you may think that globalism is bad, but the world is changing, and we can take one of two paths. We can either allow the technology to destroy us, or we can embrace the abundance that this technology has enabled and create a better world for everyone. Okay? Give that a little thought. Thanks for watching.